Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Today's piece of content has been about 6 months in the running. So I was sent this pack in December, I think it was. Some of you will know some of the issues and the unfortunate events that happened around Christmas, so it's took a little while to get this out. However, I will say, as far as the most tested bag that I've ever had on the channel, this is the one that I've tested the most. So what we are here today to look at is a 511 Tactical Rush 100. Now before I start, it's kind of a two-piece piece of content. So I'll leave the timestamp. Hopefully you'll have seen the timestamp. So if you want to fast forward through this bit, but here in the UK we have a TV program called SAS Who Dares Wins, where 3 or 4 ex Special Forces guys take, you know, just normal people and they try and see if they could pass their version of SAS selection. A few years ago, whoever makes that, they switched. They still use a lot of Condor gear, especially for the fatigues and stuff that they give to them. Whereas they picked up and adopted using the Rush 100. Now, as soon as it got on there, I knew I was going to get the emails. I knew I was going to get people talking about it. And luckily, at the time, or at least back a few months back, TacTree got in touch. Now TacTree, I've worked with TacTree in the past. This is a piece of content. So I recently went down to the TacTree store to have a look at those guys. I know there's going to be a lot of talking in this, mainly because there's a lot of features in this pack. I'm still waffling maybe a little bit here, so check out the other video so you can see exactly the type of stuff that TacTree sell, but they are the UK select premier store for 511, and they store all of their gear. And yeah, it's just the marriage of those two. I've been watching that, people have been asking, and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, we'll send you a Rush 100 if you want to test it out. Fast forward 6 months, and here we are today. So, thank you again. Huge thank you to TacTree. They're one of the UK's largest tactical outdoors, and as I say, the premier store for 511 tactical gear. So yes, definitely check them out. Thanks again. I'll leave the links below, I'll leave the links at the end, but for now, because I know there's going to be a lot of talking in this video, let's turn the camera around slightly so that we can take a closer look at the Rush 100 from 511 Tactical. Now I seem to have attracted every fly in the woods today, so I will apologise if you see me doing lots of wafting. Now, as we usually do, we'll go through some measurements, we'll go through some materials, and then we'll have a look at the features of the bag. So measurements wise, this is a 60 litre pack. Although it's called the Rush 100, the 100 on there doesn't delineate that it is a 100 litre pack. That just means that you can put enough gear, enough kit into this to be able to survive for 100 hours, or if you're military use, which is generally what this is intended for, you know, you can go on a 100-hour patrol mission, you know, whatever it is. The actual measurements of this, it comes in at 28.5 inches by 11 inches by 10.5 inches deep. So as you can imagine, there's a lot that you can fit into this. Now I will say, when you look at the difference between the Rush 100 and the Rush 72, as far as the capacity is concerned, there's not that much of a difference. Although yes, the Rush 100 is larger, there's not an awful lot difference in the capacity. However, the Rush 72 is more like the Rush 12 and the Rush 24. The Rush 12 is a smaller version of the Rush 24. The Rush 72 is a larger version of the Rush 24. Whereas when we get up to the Rush 100, this is more like what you'd call, or I'd consider, a traditional Bergen in the way that it's set up, and down to the fact that yes, there is an aluminium frame in this and some fiberglass padding, not padding, but reinforcements to help to spread some of that load, to help to stop some of that wiggle whilst walking, and also to help to push some of that weight so that it can be supported through the waist pack, through the waist belt. There are Two different sizes with this. There is a small, medium and a large. I think, is it a large, extra large? But the actual pack itself, there's no difference between them. The main difference comes down to the waist belt. If you go for a large, extra large like I have here, it just means that you get more room on your waist belt to be able to get it round to cushion those love handles to take some of the weight. Colours wise, we've got 3 colours. This is the Ranger Green. I love Ranger Green. Always go and select that colour. It's just a great colour. It fits with the greens, it fits with the browns, it fits with so much. They also do the black, and they also do this in their kangaroo, which is definitely a coyote style colour. Materials wise, the vast majority of the outer is made from a 500D nylon. There is some 1000 on here, and that's here at the bottom because this is a high wear area, especially as things are getting put down while you're taking things out. They've been able to make sure that this is as high wear as possible, but to help to reduce some of the weight of this, then they've used 500 everywhere else. Now, 500's 500. I don't think anybody's going to complain over that. I think, I've forgotten the weight. I'll put the weight here. It's just over 2 kilos. So, a lot to talk about the pack. Let's start on the front here and work our way down. So, starting at the top, we have an easy access pocket on here that gives you access to, you know, whatever, so you can keep your gloves in here, you can keep a map in here. And then for additional security, if there are items that you want to keep safe from everything else, if you've got some glasses, if you've got some optics, if you've got maybe your mobile phone or a GPS unit that you don't want to scratch up the screen, you can put it into this pocket, and this has this really nice felt lining. All of the zippers, by the way, so all of the zips on here are YKK zips, and there's a bit of a match. You've got these, which I think are at least a size 3 or a 4. Then on the top, these aren't size 10s, but, oh, they are size 10s, sorry. Yes, these are size 10s up here at the top, and they just glide. I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong with YKK. All of the zips on here as well are the newer RC, that new coil thing that they have. So yeah, I've not had any snags while testing this at all. Great little pocket, perfect pocket for when you put it down and then you just want to pick up something or get something out of there. Down the front we have some PALS webbing here with a small 511 Tactical logo on there. So as far as your PALS webbing, we have 3 columns by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. So if you need to add extra modularity on here, you can certainly do that. There is a small, or at least I say small, this section here, there is some hook and loop on there. So if you have an insignia, or if you need to be able to put even just a morale patch, you can put that on there, and it's just a little square area. Whereas above there, and I was really chuffed that they made this for me. So while I was down seeing TacTree, they made me this little Moorlander. But there's a strip here that goes all the way across, which is, I think that's at 6 by 1 inches. So if you want to put your name on there, then you can put your name on there. I'll get back to these compression straps in a moment. Then moving down, we also have an extra pocket here at the moment, here at the bottom. We'll definitely come back to this, mainly because you can use this as a section that maybe you might want to put your wet stuff in, or I suppose really if you want to be able to separate your main compartment from something that you need to keep separately here in the bottom. Most of the zips, if not all of the zips, I think the only zip that isn't ambi open is this one here at the top. All of the other zips are ambi open, which I think is great, because whether you want to store them, whichever end you want to store them, then yes, you can do that. Then coming down onto the bottom, this is where we then have that 1000D, I think it's actually 1050D, and that's also on top of the 500D that's underneath there. Yeah, it's just bomber. And let's address the elephant in the room. 511 Tactical, make gear that just lasts. I've mentioned this before in a previous video, but you know, if you've had one of their packs and you've had it for years and you've put it through the mill and it still looks amazing, Let's hear that below, because I guarantee it's going to be full of comments people saying, yeah, that's me, I've had this pack, I've done whatever with it. So where were we? On the bottom here you've got some additional lashing points, so you get plenty of webbing should you need it. If you did want to take one of these out so that you can move it down so that you can then extend these to give you even more room to put things in there, then you can do, but where the, you know, bed rolls, all of that sort of stuff, a tent, oh, I am getting bitten a lot today, you can put those yeah, in there. Coming through to the sides, now both of the sides are identical, so whatever you'll see on here you'll be able to see on this side. But what we have are, we have these two side ballast style pouches. Both of these can be opened and be open, and you get a nice large area. In fact, in there I've got some rope from the last time I was out doing some stuff and doing some filming with this pack. If you wanted to add more things to the side here, you've got you've got 2 rows and 3 columns of PALS webbing, which will then work with anything that's MOLLE compatible. These are removable as well. Now this is where I'm going to get back to these compression straps. So the 2 compression straps that go across the front, if you wanted to remove these, I will say on this, it's just a little bit of a fiddle, which I guess you could take one of 2 ways. 1, it's not going to come off. But 2, if you wanted to take them off, it's just a little bit more. So to take them off, you would have to undo or unpull this webbing from here for this then to be able to pass through this D-ring and then pass through these. If I was to change anything about these, what I would do is I would have this webbing pass through something and then have these on using traditional PALS webbing and MOLLE, or these would be MOLLE compatible and have PALS webbing on the side. There is PALS webbing down here. Again, you've got 3 rows of 2, 4, 5 columns, so I think that could have continued up here. I mean, I'm splitting hairs on this one. I think these are great, and if you didn't want them on there, they are easily removable. This is one of the things that got me whilst I was watching the SAS thing. I just don't understand why any of the DS team hadn't have told them that these were all flapping around and these were all over the place, and you could even see, so when it arrives, these are all cinched up like that, and they put some white tape, some white paper and sellotape around it. And they'd even got all of their white tape left on there. No one on the crew had told them how to set up their bag properly. But anyway, so yes, so these are on the side. These are great. On the back here, so it doesn't feel like the 500D on the back, and I think this is mainly just to make sure, because you are going to get some movement in these. It's just to make sure that it doesn't rub on anything. Again, I think if they'd have put PALS webbing on the side and changed the way that these anchor on, that would have just been perfect for me. But it is what it is. The buckles, all of the buckles are Duraflex buckles throughout. You have these nice large ones at the front. And these ones are the ones that have the ratchet retention system on here. So to undo these, once you've got it locked in and you pull on it, it's similar to like the rope locks when you're climbing. So if you try and pull back on here, this bites and pulls back. So if you want to release it, you have to press on the bit that bites to then be able to pull it through. It's nice to be able to see these on packs. Although you don't get a lot of slippage on other buckles, especially the Duraflex buckles, the ones that have the little ridged teeth part sections. It definitely, I mean, it just removes all slippage. No slippage whatsoever. When you've got these on, pull that tight, it just doesn't move. These are genuinely bomber. So yeah, these are the same on both sides, but what you also have is just behind here, and it goes down. I've got here we go. Will this? No, won't fit in, will it? No. So you can put something in here, so should you need to store something that is reasonably long, it will come down the side, come on, for you there, so it will pass through. Good for, you might be able to fit skis through there, but walking poles, axes, anything like that. And then at the bottom here, hopefully you can see it just pokes out the bottom. And then if you've got any extra webbing or something that you keep on you, maybe some paracord, you can yeah, you can attach that to the side. But I will say that these do a very good job. So when you've got this cinched down, again, you've got that pull tight. There's no movement in these on the side. Actually, there's a little bit of movement on these, but if you have something in there, yeah, there's no movement in that whatsoever. So that's the sides, and as I mentioned, they are both exactly the same. Then coming up to the top, we have this huge opening that will fall forward. It is not a full clamshell, so where the PAL's webbing starts here on the side, this is where this stops. It probably comes down about 3/4 of the way. Now I've got some kit in here for some other filming that I'm going to be doing today, but this is the vast majority of that 60 litres. So on the inside, across the back panel here, you have an area that you can store a water bladder or something like that. The water bladder will come up through the top, out through the back. In fact, there's my finger. So you can put your hydration system. It's a central one rather than a lefty or a righty, so that you can then feed that down either of your straps, dependent on yeah, you know, how you prefer to use it. On the inside, so the back here is all lined. All of the stitching has got additional reinforcement on the stitching, which is great, really good to see. And then here, on the front, or at least on the inside here, so this is the skirt for this pocket. So if you need to put your wet boots in here, if you've got wet kit that you need to put on the bottom, it makes perfect sense to keep your wet kit on the bottom rather than at the top and the water going down. But all of that will come through here, and there is also an additional, now I say grommet, what they've done is they've gone a little bit low key on this. So rather than putting in a steel grommet, they've just, I mean, it looks like a button, as you can see here, or at least a button hole, but that will go through to there, and then yes, that will, you know, it'll let out any water if needed. Now, unlike other packs, a lot of other packs will have maybe a pull cord in here, so that if you wanted to open this completely out, so that you can use the full 60 litres and not have to worry about keeping stuff separate on the bottom, you just undo that. I quite like the way that 511 have done it. So instead of having that, instead you've just got this extra sack in here. So if you're not using the bottom section, then you can just push this all the way down and you now get full use of that full compartment. It does mean though that if you are going to use this, then you'll need to make sure that you fill the bottom first. If you fill the top first, you'll need to put it on its side, push everything up to be able to get anything into the bottom, which is, there's pros and cons with everything, but I think it's a good solution. Across the back at the top here, this is where your Bergen style aluminium frame is in here. So this does go all the way down, plus, as I mentioned, you also have this back panel on there as well, which will help. You can mold this, there is just enough give in it so that you can make this fit your back. I will say that, I've not changed anything on here, haven't done anything to it, and it fits me perfectly. So I'm 5'10", have a 42-44 inch chest, and yeah, I've not had to do any adjustments to make it good for me. I got the extra large, extra large, mainly because of the waist belt, but yeah, it's great. So that's the inside. On this front panel here, when this front panel comes down, there isn't any additional pockets or usage for this. Again, I've probably been really picky splitting hairs on this. I think that would have been nice. They probably could have used this for something so that if you need to get it out, you can roll this over, take one out. Again, do you know what? I am just being very picky on that. I don't think it takes anything away from the actual pack itself. So that's the front and the main section. Now we get through to the important part, which comes from being able to carry this. So the suspension on this is quite a simple suspension system, again working from the top going down to the bottom. You do have load adjusters. Now when I first saw this pack, I was a little dubious about how the suspension system is adjustable. Oh, actually, before we do that, you've got this really big grab handle. The grab handle's great, but what I definitely recommend is when you get it, just flip it over like that, because it keeps it off your neck whilst you're walking with this. If you have it like that, it does, and it just kind of bounces on your neck and it just feels weird. Whereas if you flip it over so that the webbing almost tries to force itself backwards, then it will keep it away from your neck. But I mean, look, I can double fist this, it's that big. That's what she said. Okay, so the way that the suspension system works, or at least the way that this is adjustable, rather than having one of those kind of lock panels that you get with certain packs where you put it in, you do your measurements, you've got it just right, and it's that over-under system where you Velcro one down, Velcro one up, whichever way it goes, and it locks it in place. The way that this system works is that the whole strap through the back here is hook and looped on to the back panel. To stop it from coming down, at certain points down here, you then have this webbing. The webbing here at the bottom stops the bottom bit from coming up. The webbing here at the top stops this from being able to peel down. It did concern me at first, but through 6 months of testing, do you know what? It's a very simple, no-frill system that just works. So should you want to be able to move this up, you get an extra, say, 2 inches or so. You'd have to undo this. You'd have to undo the, what do they call that then? You'd have to you have to undo the adjuster. Pass that then up through this second loop, and then put the load adjuster back on and cinch it down. You do get a little bit of movement watching the SAS program. Again, it just surprises me so much that the DS hadn't told the people on it how to set up their pack properly, because you'd see some people and the pack's just flying around absolutely all over the place. They weren't using the belt, they weren't using the shoulders properly, and the most important section is they weren't using these load adjusters, because once these load adjusters are on here, 511 tactical bomber, it just doesn't move. There's no way, there's no swiggle, there's no sway, there's no wiggle to it whatsoever. As I say, it's a very simple system, and it just works. So going down each of the straps then, you then have additional daisy chain style loops on here, so that if you want to pass your hydration system through there, then you can do. Sternum strap on this is large. You've got adjustments on one side, but then on the other side you also have that little bungee so that it doesn't pinch on your shoulders. Coming down then to each at the bottom of these, should you need to ditch this as quickly as possible, then you also have quick release buckles on there. Again, nobody likes to drown or get stuck in water, do they? Or if for some strange reason you do fall flat on your back and you can't get up, you're carrying a lot of weight, then yeah, they'll give you easy access to get out. The padding on here, again, I think I need to adopt a new term, 511 padding, or this is 511 fit kind of thing. Great padding, nice and plush, plus you also get a lot of this air mesh on here to help to wick away some of that sweat. The actual back panel itself, as far as padding, it's mainly these two sections, but these aren't static pads, because these will move up and down depending on how high your strap is. Then we get down to the lumbar section, and you have this absolutely bomber lumbar padding on here, which does hook and loop up, so that if you wanted to, you can take your belt off. So it's great that there is an option for that. Again, you know, if you did want to reduce some weight, Or maybe if you've got certain things on here, you've set up camp and maybe you've got your cantina on here, or you've got your bottle, or you know, whatever you've got on here, you want to ditch this, just grab the stuff that's on your waistband and then you can go out and you can, you know, do whatever it is that you need to do. Padding on this, excellent. Rather than having the molly built into, or at least on this, there's actually reinforcement in here. So if you can see, I'm pulling these apart. So on the inside of each of these, there is extra reinforcement to give this some rigidity. That really does go straight into carrying this. So I've done quite a few miles. I got this up to about 30 kilos one day, and yeah, do you know what? My back was sore when I got back. However, not as sore as it would have been if I hadn't had this belt. Being able to have this sit on your love handles just to take some of that weight is perfect. I also like the fact that rather than being pulled that way, they are pulled forward, which I think is the best way to be able to adjust this. And then yes, you have a really nice Duraflex buckle on there to keep it tight. And how does it carry? Well, it carries really well. Shoulders on here are just right for me, as I say, so I'm 5'10", 42 inch, 44 inch chest. It just sits right. There's plenty of adjustment in here so that you can keep everything, you know, exactly how you want it. Make sure it's nice and tight. Make sure you've got that chest strap, the sternum strap done up. The waist belt on this really works, full stop. It just really works. I don't know where I was going to go with that, because that kind of was the sentence and how it ends. It does a very good job again of being able to hold that weight here. It takes some of the pressure off the back, it takes some of that compression away from your spinal cord and locks it into place. There's no pinch. The padding on the back fits just down either side of my spine, and yeah, it's a great pack. Now I will say that this is 511 doing what 511 do best. So there are other packs out there that are 3 or 4 times the cost of this. Now I'm using cost specifically there and not using the term value, because the value that you get from this, it's not a pack that is going to break the bank. And when you look at the value of what you get from this pack, similar to the Rush 12, the Rush 24, the Rush 72, you're going to be able to pass this down to your kids. You're going to be able to put this through the mill. It does exactly what you need it to do, and it's not going to break the bank. Again, this is 511 Tactical doing what 511 Tactical do best. So thoroughly enjoyed testing this out. I'd like to say a huge thank you again to TacTree when I was down there. In fact, they even gave me some free t-shirts with a big logo on the back as well, so that was really cool. Absolutely amazing meeting the team. This is a dual piece of content, so if you've watched this all the way to the end, thank you for staying to the end. But also check out here on Moorlander EDC my little trip down to Telford. It's a stone's throw away from the Kingdom of the Moorlands, so I went over there to meet the team, see the store. I pretty much touched and sniffed, and I mean, we're not going to get too pervy on it, but there was a lot of things that I touched in that store because I was like, yeah, this is my heaven. So if you watch this and you're still at the end, yes, go and watch the other piece of content. You'll get to see a little bit more about TacTree, how they work, and what a nice company they are. So yes, huge thank you to them. I will leave their links below so that you can see more, you can see the website. If you check on the website, obviously you'll be able to find out where the store is. And yes, I'll leave some of my social media links, but for now, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. On a scale of 1 to 10, bugger off, 1 being Sahara dry, and 10 being sweaty McBetty wet, how sweaty do I look right now? A lot of flies today. Whew.